morning. Welcome to another fresh edition of your breakfast show on Leadership Television. Today, Monday, April 28, 2025. The program Inside Nigeria. In this first half of the program, we discuss front headline stories of some leading newspapers, including Nigeria's most influential leadership newspaper. My name is Winifred Ubebo, your host on the program. Welcome. We move to leadership as we normally do on the program and see what leadership has on its menu today. Leadership says concerns as 2027 campaign threatens governance. Concerns as 2027 campaign threatens governance. This story runs on page 4 of leadership. Let's look at the key cards one by one. Electoral Act prohibits public campaign before 150 days to election day. INEC wants. Politicians have abandoned governance. Lawyers. Is not central turn coalition. Pursue interest with decency, discipline, say governors. Kickers to the leading story today on leadership newspaper. Concerns as 2027 campaign threatens governance. Just beside that leading story, gunmen kidnapped 7 passengers in Kwara. NDLEA recovers 1.042 billion illicit drugs. NLC cancels May Day celebrations in Rivers, Edo. Gunmen kidnapped 7 passengers in Kwara. NDLEA recovers 1.042 billion naira illicit drugs. NLC cancels May Day celebrations in Rivers, Edo. Liverpool crowned Premier League champions. From that story by the side of the leading news, we'll move to the stories above the masthead. Defections, fix your party, presidency hits opposition. FCCPC, Zuckerberg must pay $220 million fine, compensate victims. From that story, we move to the page 3 of leadership, where we have our stand. Today's stand is on End Zamfara Assembly Crisis Now. End Zamfara Assembly Crisis Now. Today's stand on leadership. Zamfara State is in a precarious situation. It has been like this for over a decade. The state has not known real peace since the time of former Governor Abdulaziz Yari, when mass killings and attacks by bandits became the order of the day, forcing him to renounce publicly his position as the chief security officer of the state. Governor Mohammed Matawale inherited it, and throughout his 4-year tenure, the state was home to killers. The situation has not changed under Governor Dauda Lawal. We move towards the conclusion of today's stand. Zamfara is desirous of an end to the recurring attacks and killings on communities, which have continued to worsen the residents' woes and exacerbate the level of poverty. This state, understandably, leads other states of the country from behind in virtually all the development indices. Yet all the lawmakers are interested in is an ego fight that has no positive impact on the lives of the citizens. This is not the sort of representation the good people of Zamfara envisaged when they trooped out en masse to vote for the members of the State House of Assembly. As a newspaper, we join Nigerians of goodwill to condemn the current crisis rocking the legislature. The state cannot afford an escalation of the situation. The time to end it is now. Newspaper today on stand today on leadership newspaper. End Zamfara Assembly Crisis now. From our stand, we move to the back page where we have Mode column with Dakuku Peter side. Today's column is on a Pope's funeral and new leadership paradigm. A Pope's funeral and new leadership paradigm. In quotes, at first glance, comparing a Pope to political leaders might seem unconventional, but important commonalities exist. Quotes from today's Monday column with Dakuku Peter side. A Pope's funeral and leadership paradigm. Before we leave the back page, we must not fail to go to Ghana Must Go. News from Governor Buni, count me out of Article's coalition. And Ghana Must Go ask, is a one-man coalition? Is a question you have to find answers to from the Monday column, inside stories and editorial stand, and the continuation of the headline stories as we head up to www.leadership.ng. From leadership, we move over to the next paper on our list, and that is Vanguard. Vanguard is still talking about opposition and Tinubu's response to that. He says, "Don't blame me for inability to manage your affairs," says democracy not threatened in Nigeria. Tinubu to opposition, "Don't blame me for inability to manage your affairs," says democracy not threatened in Nigeria. Leading story today on Vanguard newspaper. Defections Oberowori Omoagege battle for Delta APC leadership. As Deputy Senate President insists his party lead Delta Governor my leader Keyamo. Shetima Ganduje 10 governors receive Oborewori Okowa today. Of course, everywhere is agog. Newspapers today are carrying the advertorial congratulating that defections of Governor Delta's defection, gale of defections. We must resist one-party state agenda. Akionla, Odinkalu, Jinaju, others. The story is on page 10 of Vanguard. It's still on a defection story. Inside stories today on Vanguard. An outrage over World Bank's report on poverty in Nigeria as CSOs demand urgent actions. Stop playing politics with people's lives. Action aid tells federal government. Is a sobering picture for Nigeria. Adeyanju. Kicker to that leading story, outrage over World Bank's report on poverty in Nigeria. Of course, the World Bank did report that Nigerians are going to be poorer in 2027. And in response to that, CSO says demand urgent actions with outrage following that World Bank's report. It's on that note we conclude review of front headline stories on Vanguard this Monday, April 28, 2025. Don't forget to log into the website of Vanguard to read more on these stories. From Vanguard, still opposition stories continues on the Punch newspaper. The Punch says defections, PDP calls emergency meeting to halt Hurricane Tinubu. The story continues on page 2 of the Punch. Defections, PDP calls emergency meeting to halt Hurricane Tinubu. Nigeria not drifting to one-party state presidency. APC welcomes Oborewori others today. NDLEA seizes 1 billion naira drugs and 80-room hotel raid. Heritage Bank NDIC begins 46.6 billion naira payout to top depositors. The story runs on page 37 of the Punch. Fitch upgrades Lagos, Kaduna to other states' investment rating. Tension as rival Kano emirs appoint separate Galadimas. Federal government targets 70% local pharmaceutical production. The story runs on page 14 of the Punch. And lastly, on the cover of the Punch newspaper, U.S. reports calls out Nigeria's trade barriers, port corruption. U.S. report calls out Nigeria's trade barriers, port corruption. The story continues on page 37 of the Punch newspaper, even as we conclude review of front headline stories on the Punch this Monday. Don't forget to log into the website for more of the stories. The next paper we have on our lineup is The Guardian. The Guardian is on solar panel. Current solar industry stamp short. That is an illustration beneath the leading story. Solar panel import ban may trigger 150% price surge, worsen energy cost crisis. As usual, on The Guardian, there's an illustration to go with that story. No cash above $10,000 must leave Nigeria without declaration. EFCC warns. No cash above $10,000 must leave Nigeria without declaration. EFCC warns. Tampolo endorses Tinubu for second term, says Fubara will return. Presidency civil society clash over Tinubu's alleged one-party state agenda. Over 18 northern communities under ISWAP control, says group. Fulani herders get 48-hour ultimatum to leave Benue community. The story is on page 9 of The Guardian. Fulani herders get 48-hour ultimatum to leave Benue community. That takes us to the stories just beneath the masthead of The Guardian. Don't don military attire. Army urges Nigerians. Nigeria won't be great without Agric, says Afe Babalola. NLC cancels May Day celebrations in Rivers, Edo, and that concludes the review of front headline stories on The Guardian newspaper this Monday. For more, log into www.guardian.ng. From the Guardian, we move over to the last paper and our menu for review this on this first segment of the show, and that is Nigeria's leadership's sister publication, that is National Economy. National Economy is a weekly business newspaper on the stable of leadership. The main headline today says $9 billion below 2025 budget benchmark. Sustained drop in oil prices threatens economic reforms growth. $9 below 2025 budget benchmark. Sustained drop in oil prices threatens economic reforms growth. Experts say if prices remain subdued, Nigeria could struggle to finance public projects, pay off debts, or sustain subsidy reforms. Push for optimized tax systems, strategic sector investments. Say 2025 Finance Act introduced new fiscal tools, but implementation remains a challenge. And the story continues underneath that leading story. Beneath that, Nigeria's satellite program between national pride and practical progress. That takes us to the stories about the masthead of national economy. Trump's tariff on Nigeria causes 70% shipment rejection rate. Trump's tariff on Nigeria causes 70% shipment rejection rate. Nigeria's gas output rises to 227.9 billion SCF in March. The story continues on page 4 of National Economy. Just before we leave National Economy, let's just move to the page 3, where we have the editorial. The editorial on National Economy this week is Nigeria must prioritize worker protection. This is in view of the Workers' Day coming up on Thursday, May Day, titled May Day. And this week's editorial, National Economy, says Nigeria must prioritize worker protection as the world marks the International Day for Safety and Health at Work on April 28. Nigeria stands at a critical crossroads. This annual observance, initiated by the International Labour Organization (ILO), offers not only a global moment of reflection on worker welfare, but also a clarion call to nations like Nigeria, where workplace safety often remains an afterthought. Just snippets from that editorial on National Economy. For more, don't forget to log into the website of National Economy, www.nationaleconomy.com. It's on that note we conclude the first half of today's Inside Nigeria. Don't forget the second half of the program is coming in shortly. Stay tuned.
Be part of our brand. Leadership for God and country. Be part of our brand.
Leadership TV for God and country.
Yes, welcome back to the second half of your breakfast show on Leadership Television Inside Nigeria. My name is Winifred Baba once again, and I have my model guest in the studio. He is a PhD holder in political economics, Aliyu Elias. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
It's always a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you.
A lot has been happening. Nigeria is on the verge of being a one-party state, of course, with the gale of defections that took place last week from Delta State. And it's no longer a secret that some governors are already warming up to also join the defection train. And talking about is it Akwa Ibom or Calabar?
Yes, Akwa Ibom,
Yes, recently it said on the national news that he was endorsing and supporting President Bola Tinubu for second term.
Party in the center.
That's what he says. So what are we having here? Because leadership's leading story today says concerns as 2027 campaign threatens governance. But however, in reaction to that, because many people are mulling the fact that Nigeria is gradually becoming a one-party state, and Tinubu told opposition, don't blame me for inability to manage your affairs. Says democracy not threatened in Nigeria.
Well, for me, if you ask me, I think it is threatening. I will go to that area because the power of opposition really makes the government at the center perform better.
Yes, put it on his toes.
Exactly. You recall that how did even APC became what they became? It is merger. And how they became that? They tried to form a formidable opposition. I remember Lai Mohammed was his spokesperson. And it comes out on every issues and bring a dimension to it. And before, in fact, at a point it was like propaganda. And what's propaganda? Bringing one particular issue and talking about it over time. So I think it's one thing that we should be worried about. Honestly, we are slipping into one party system because if you look at it now, party at the center is taking everything. If you look at it, if you look at defection, even in National Assembly, become worrisome.
Of course,
you see
we even see the PDP members,
Labour Party in
saying
particular.
That yes,
Labour Party, I think they are coming to change the dimension of politics, especially in national.
Instead, they just blended.
They blended. You see a lot of them are moving into APC, but the governor one is quite worrisome and challenging. You know, we remember Akpabio. You know, Akpabio was the first person that joined APC that everybody became surprised. How can Akpabio from PDP, who has actually make a governor and suddenly go to APC? But who knows what make him to actually come to APC? Then now he's reaping the benefit of it. But the worry part is that a whole governor and a whole structure of the state, you know, chairman, you know, commissioners, you know, and what are legislature, all of them at the same time moving to particular party. Well, some have a lot of theory has been coming up.
Yes,
on why. But I think today we will know the main theory.
We didn't say it, but you are not going to hear the
no, that's the thing.
Yes,
so
theories have been
it's quite worrisome.
Yes, and that is also worrisome because one of the kickers in leadership's main headline story says Electoral Act prohibits public campaign before 150 days to election day. INEC rules. However, but that seemed not to be the case because in one of the viral videos yesterday, we saw a campaign train with the photo posters of some candidates being campaigned for. And we begin to wonder, we have not even reached 2026 yet. Campaign is already flagging up. And INEC is folding his hands. Why can't INEC come out and sanction this?
Right. I'm thinking President Bola Ahmed Tinubu himself need to call his people to order. Because we will save him the conclusion that is away. Let's assume that is not.
You actually told them to desist.
As I'm coming to this Mabuchi Express, it is there.
Okay.
The poster of Bola Ahmed Tinubu is there, and it's campaigning about 2027. If you go to Airport Road, you see it everywhere, and it's a serious concern because we are leaving governance, going into politics. So I think it's the right thing for. I'm happy that INEC is coming out. I hope they will have the confidence.
INEC is just going. He's just warning. Why can't he take action?
A sanction. I think that's it. If you have said, okay, this party that is doing this, we sanction you 2 million naira. That would have been like a detriment, and other people will learn from, because now they have much more money. I'm talking about APC. They can start campaigning from now because they have the political power. And from the gimmicks that is happening now, everything is being, you know, towards their success as it were. Because if you look at it, a whole government and you know the whole nation will focus on that now, and that is a serious case. And you recall that we see what's his name, the senator from Delta who forced the camp. So APC, what's his name now?
Ned Nwoko.
Ned Nwoko, and everybody was saying, because he wants to become governor. Now the governor himself has come now and has become political leader.
There's going to be battle of gladiators in APC, talking about the former deputy Senate president
Ovie Omagege. But the fact is that I doubt it. I doubt
it. We now have Boriwori for second
term,
and Ned Nwoko.
He's like, he's like a calculated attempt. Because if you look at the party at the center, we say also give Ovie, Boriwori, Sheriff. They will give him the first refusal.
Yes, that is going to be the...
Yes, that they give him that options. He's going to carry it. And Ovie Omagege and even Festus Keyamo. All of them were exactly, they have to pledge it because the governor has automatically become the leader of the party in that. And my fear is not even for them. Data has come, and I'm sure they have seen. What about other states? That's the fear now. Because I'm also thinking 3 governors might want to go. All these governors are that they will do meeting the night. Let me remind you of the meeting they went to have in Ibadan. 11 governors also.
Yes, we saw that report.
I am not confident that even the governor of Ibadan himself is not warming up to join because they have nothing to lose than to join the party in the center and possibly become a minister. That's what I'm watching. And we still have 2 years. We still have 2 years and is it 1 month or 2 months now to the election. So anything can still happen. Because even as Oyo State is, I have not seen a PDP candidate that's trying to say, okay, I want to become governor in that state. It's worse.
Yes, as defections and alignment continues into 2026 or 2027, the one worrying and nagging worry for Nigerians is the issue of the Electoral Act. Why has it not been amended? Because a situation whereby when the citizens vote matters, the citizens are supposed to be the one to determine who leads them, but the Electoral Act presently in Nigeria doesn't support that. And just recently we heard the report that they want to mandate even those without PVC to vote. What are we going to have? Chaos.
It's quite funny. Before now we used to see
somebody without PVC come
no, it's not even possible. I don't know how they want to do that. That they will give you room for outright rigging.
Outright rigging. That is it.
But the fact is that after election like this, we see that.
But I'm very sure activists are not going to allow it.
In fact, I'm happy because I'm seeing on this your papers, I'm seeing civil society campaigning against it vigorous. But would they listen? That's the question now. Perhaps they also have to sponsor some activists as well that will be on their own support because Nigeria could be funny.
Because that is just a prelude to rigging the election.
So for me, I think the INEC need to do more. I know that this tenure of this man is about to end. I don't know. I think it's this year.
Yes, it's this year.
It's this year. So we are looking at how they will now, because that was a news, maybe I don't know how true it is. I want to assume it's fake news where they talk about one person who is a political party how do I call it, executives that they are planning to bring him as the INEC chairman, which the person also belongs to the ruling party. I'm telling you, a party executive. I was wondering how will Nigeria actually handle this, because they shouldn't stoop so low to bring such person.
You shouldn't use the word. They shouldn't use anything.
Anything happens. So glaring if they actually bring about such one.
Because we saw the list of the census population committee, and of course it's peppered by one region, which has continued to generate controversy. But I've not seen the presidency saying anything.
They have to actually review that because it's not a good one. That simply means you are skewing the results ab initio. Yes.
All right, thank you so much for that. Moving ahead, we are talking about the Guardian's leading story today. Of course, it's no longer news. Presidency allotted 10 billion naira for solar installation in the villa, and obviously in response to that, the Guardian's leading story today is on solar panel import ban may trigger 150% price surge, worsen energy cost crisis. However, the issue of this installation of solar in the villa has continued to generate controversy because the president did promise Nigerians, even during his campaigns, that he was going to give Nigerians power. And if he doesn't do that, or if he didn't succeed in doing that within his 4 years, that Nigerians should not vote him for second term. And now what do we have?
Well, even the president, Nigeria, we are good at forgetting history. I hope we will hold on to
because APC said they should stone them dead.
But even said a lot of things on the podium when they are campaigning. But the thing is, for me, I want us to even ban the solar importation. Because if you don't ban as an economist, there is no room for infant industry to go. You could see some companies, I don't want to mention them, that are trying to do. So government is supposed to support, and that's why some of us are against total acceptance of AFCTA, African Free Trade Area. And because if we do it, Nigeria will become a dumping ground. We suppose, with the level at which we are using this thing, and nothing stop us from producing here, because it will bring job, employment, it will bring more money, and it will also help us to actually develop our own our technology. Somebody came around my essay and was asking me, is there a meeting among you that everybody must have solar? I said, that's what we have reduced to in Nigeria. Every area now is looking for solar. So, and it's not bad. Even in places like South Africa, sometimes if you use solar, government come to actually pay you that you have taken the stress off the grid, right, to actually provide. But Nigeria, what are we saying, is very, very expensive. I can tell you a 5 kVA, maybe 510 solar, will not less than 3.5 million to 4 million now. That's what a Nigerian is trading off. Imagine if we are buying everything from a Nigerian company. I think it's instructive. And you could also see the mockery of the president himself, where he is also installing solar in the villa. That is a lot of things that actually failed. Because if you can have nothing, you can compare to normal electricity. You cannot compare anything. Because solar, if you don't have, you don't power it, if you don't do a lot of things, it will still not be able to power. And it cannot still carry some things that normal electricity would have powered.
Thank you so much. We are still moving ahead. Of course, in response, I just want to talk to this World Bank's report that Nigerians are going to be more poorer in few years to come.
It is obvious. It is obvious.
And Vanguard says one of his leading stories says is generating outrage over World Bank's report on poverty in Nigeria as CSOs demand urgent action.
But it's quite obvious. Some of us have said it over time that most government policy are going to take us down to more poverty. Then it was multi-dimensional poverty that we about 141 million Nigeria are said to be in the poverty. But if you look at things now, it is getting worse. Education, people cannot afford it. Transport, people cannot afford it. Even rent, people cannot afford it. People are going down into poverty. And the government is not coming to aid, because if you look at our purchasing power, in fact, if you also look at the budget, the Nigerian are actually pushed this year. You see that from all look of things, they cannot achieve such sum. It has been reduced by $9. That is the oil and oil.
Yes, I was come to.
You're right. So those things are going to definitely happen, because that's our expectation. And the funny thing is that Nigeria are now paying more for government to survive. How do I mean? With the first subsidy removal now, governments, as is expected, said they are having more money. Why the citizens are paying more, because that's just the meaning, because that's what Nigerians are actually benefiting before now. But it has been removed and Nigerians are paying more. But my pain is that even the gain of the subsidy removal has been eroded with what Forex is actually talking. Even if federal government have 1 trillion today, it cannot do what 500 billion of last 2 years can actually do. That's the problem we are facing now.
Yes, in view of what you just said, that's the leading story on this week's national economy cover story. $9 below 2025 budget benchmark. Sustained drop in oil prices threatens economic reforms growth. Experts say if prices remain subdued, Nigeria could struggle to finance public projects, pay off debts, or sustain subsidy reforms. Push for optimized tax system, strategic sector.
So now you can see now the next thing is to increase taxation. So actually,
but however, the federal government did say that they were generating more from non-oil.
But we saw it now in mining, and it was like around 5 billion that they declared. For me, it's too small, even though they are actually coming. It's too patchy sum for us to start jubilating. We were thinking that, and what the money generated was on license, because I tried to read it. It's much more of license, not the proper mining and proper sales itself, because it's supposed to develop another market for that sector. So for me, this news is quite instructive and expository. If we don't take cognizance of it, poverty will deepen the band. Funny enough, the poverty in Nigeria is not more pronounced like before, because people are not tired of complaining. Everybody starts enduring. We are now enduring level of poverty. People that their children cannot go to school actually drop it, or taking them to school that is substandard, which you are going to pay for eventually in future.
Thank you so much. Now, just shortly before we go, The Guardian has a story on a strip that over 80 northern communities under ISWAP control, says group. And some of these communities under ISWAP control are in Benue, Plateau, Borno, and even Yobe. How did we get to there? And even Niger, because we had the former governor of the state always raising alarm that ISWAP are taking control over some communities.
You know, at a point when our NSC is talking, I just think it's actually playing to the gallery, simply because it's more of talking than more of actions. I don't see why in Nigeria as an entity will not be able to comb those areas. 2 months exercise, comb it. Make sure that nothing is actually existing there. So I don't know why.
You can even do area bombing.
But it appears that maybe some people are actually benefiting from what's actually happening, because when there's insecurity, some people tend to get more budget reallocation, more action has to come from them. If not, I think President Bola Ahmed Tinubu should take it as a point of duty. It is a country that is set to have peace that he can also recontest in. So he must make sure that he look at this security issue. If you are to be charging these people every 2 months, giving them reason why they should be active, so we need to do, like I always preach, we must go beyond kinetic to non-kinetic. We must combine the two. What's the work of DSS? What's the work of investigative agencies? They need to do more to see if these people are coming in. Why? What's their motive? Like Lakurawa, what they call it? They said they've noticed them 4 years or 5 years that they have been in the area before they now became what they became. We have to be careful. Because every time we see the record, Nigerian soldier killed so, and it has not reflect to the reduction of that.
Those bandits, yes. So it hasn't. So something doesn't really add up.
I'm telling you.
You are killing.
It is very, very worrisome.
It is worrisome. Well, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you for
Yes, it is where we draw the curtain on today's Monday program, Inside Nigeria. I've had the pleasure of having company today. My Monday guest is a political economist, PhD, and you Elias. And my name is Winifred Bobo, your host on the program. I look forward to having you on this same station, same time tomorrow for another fresh edition of the program. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.